Governor, you're an honorary member of that family because we've spent a lot of time together. And to see the federal family together with the Moore leadership team, the Moore Miller leadership team, together with our federal delegation, together with County Executive Olszewski, together with the mayor. That's what teamwork is about. You know, there are a lot of people across this state and across America who've begun to lose faith in government. They're wondering, can government get things done? Can government get hard things done? Look at the last 11 weeks of partnership here. Getting things done. This is a textbook case study on everybody working together. Egos all checked at the door. The unified command understanding that we are all going to succeed, but we all succeed only when we all succeed. And that's what this has been about, moving forward. You know, Governor, you mentioned Donald, the longshore person. And I met Donald earlier today along with a number of other workers. And Donald said to me, and I actually wrote it down because it really struck me. And by the way, he was deathly afraid that if his wife found out that he had bought a car 3 hours earlier, she was going to be really not happy about that. Am I right about that? Okay. And Donald said in our meeting, you know, we're in trouble as a family. We're in trouble as a state. We're in trouble as a region. That was your fear in the hours after this. Well, I'm here to say that when families work together, as we have done, the federal family, the state family, our local family, our business partners, our community partners, and all of the people who contributed to help the victims and their families. This is truly a case study on how to get things done. And we all are well aware, as the governor correctly pointed out, that while we celebrate this moment and mark this milestone, a milestone that I would be willing to bet many people said would never be met, but it was met. As we mark this milestone, I appreciate, Governor, your understanding that while we're trying to get things back to normal, there will be a new abnormal for the families of Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes, Jose Lopez, Dorian Cabrera, Miguel Luna, Minor Suazo Sandoval, y Carlos Hernandez Estrella. They are indeed our heroes. Their lives will never be the same, the families. And we understand at this moment that we don't leave anyone behind, as you have always said, Governor, and as you practice in your actions. And we will not leave them behind, nor will we leave anyone behind. We were proud in the federal family, as Pete pointed out, the investments from the Transportation Department that were so quick, the Small Business Administration, helping literally thousands of people, small businesses, apply for loans and give out about $25 million in loans. The Labor Department acting quickly, and your Labor Department, under the leadership of the best Labor Secretary in Maryland history, Portia Wu. She understood, Governor, she understood that we need to get money in people's pockets. We were able to help in some capacity, but you were able to help even more. And you acted quickly with the partnership and leadership from the legislature. And as a result, the fears that Donald reflected, and those were fears that were reflected in families not only here but across the region. Those fears have not materialized because we've had your backs and we'll continue to have your back. So we're going to continue, as President Biden correctly pointed out, to move heaven and earth. Got a little more earth to move, but we have the team in place. And as the President said, it is the commitment of the federal government to fund 100% of the construction of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And your federal delegation is working tirelessly to ensure that. And we're going to continue to be with you every step of the way. And speaking of every step of the way, the next person I have the privilege of introducing was one of those people every step of the way. He's a person whose name you may not have known before March 26th. But when Maryland and the history books write the story of how we came together, Rear Admiral Galbraith, you will be a big part of that story. Welcome aboard.
Good afternoon. This story starts and it ends with people. It starts with the lives of 6 people who were tragically lost on the morning of March 26th. But fortunately, the story does not end there. Along the way, we added a ton of people to bring this story to today's conclusion. We added first responders, firefighters, policemen, Coast Guard sentinels who showed up on the water to search for victims. We added more people as the Unified Command stood up. The Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Maryland Environment, the State Police from Maryland. All of those people came to this event to help, to be part of the solution. And they formed an incredible unified command that I could not be prouder of all the efforts from the local level, the state level, the federal level. You have set the standard for unity of effort for future unified commands. I'm so proud of you. You met every objective that was laid out for you. You recovered the victims, you protected Chesapeake Bay, and you've reopened this port. Thank you for your hard work. Now, along the way, we had a lot of other people that helped us. And so, Governor Moore, I want to say thank you to you personally for your leadership and your support for this unified command, and in particular for the trust that you showed us and this team of people that came to work. That trust made all the difference in speed. It's why in 2.5 months, we've got the channel reopened and cleared, the dolly removed from the waterway there, and we've got the port reopened. So that trust makes a world of difference. So Governor, thank you for your trust. Thank you. Thank you also, and to the elected officials in Maryland at every level of government, thank you for your support and trust as well. Because while the Unified Command was focused on those objectives I just said, you were focused on taking care of the rest of the community. You were focused on finding ways to help the port workers. You were focused on finding ways to improve the supply chain. Mr. Secretary, thank you for that help, relieving some of that pressure that would have been even harder on the Unified Command. They had enough of a hard task in front of them. You helped relieve that pressure. So thank you all for helping take that pressure off their backs and letting them focus on their jobs. That made the difference. So thank you. I also want to say a special thank you to the community and the people of Baltimore and Maryland. When the governor says, "You're Maryland tough and Baltimore strong," he truly means it, and I believe it. And I just want to thank you for the support you've provided the Unified Command and the salvers and the workers who've been doing this for this entire 2.5 months. It's made a difference. When we check in at a hotel, we go eat at a restaurant, we see you on the street somewhere, or we see you on the water, and you say, "Thank you. How can I help you? What's going on?" That interest, that caring, that support, that love that we feel, it makes a difference to making this team go faster as well and stay motivated. So thank you. And finally, I want to say thank you to the maritime community. Thank you for your support, for working with us to open alternate channels so we could begin to move commerce to the conclusion of this week on Monday when we got that full 700-foot wide, 50-foot channel reopened. Thank you for that work and support. I'm so proud of that opportunity to work with you. Unified Command is proud of that opportunity to work for you, and you made a tremendous difference. So thank you very much, and congratulations on a terrific port reopening. I'll now turn it over to Major General Butch Graham.
All right, thank you very much. It's always good going towards the end here when all the good lines have been taken. 700 foot wide, 50 feet deep, Baltimore's back in business. Delighted to see. Three quick points just want to highlight to add emphasis to what's already been said. First point, as the governor said, that this massive operation was done safely. We do a lot of diving in the Corps of Engineers, and this is some of the most hazardous diving that I've ever been part of. There were 0 lost time accidents is a credit to the crane operators, the divers, the mariners, the salvage experts who were working below, on, and high, way high above the Patapsco River since 30 March. Governor Moore, we appreciate your leadership to know that safety comes first and everybody gets to go home at the end of the day. Thank you, sir. As we remember the 6 lives tragically lost, we celebrate, as you heard today, the teamwork that enabled this mission to succeed. With clear direction from President Biden and Governor Moore, the Unified Command, superbly led by Coast Guard Captain David O'Connell, who I think had his son's high school graduation today, brought together the expertise resident across the entire federal family, the state of Maryland, and the amazing city of Baltimore. This whole of government team was successful in working together to reopen this vital supply chain. It's great to hear everything backing up there. It was eerie when this port was as quiet as it was. That cacophony is a delight to see. As you heard earlier, you set the standard. As we head into a busy, busy hurricane season, the teamwork that was showed here certainly sets the standard for me. Last point. I want to personally call out the Navy's Supervisor of Salvage and Diving, led by Captain Sal Suarez and Director Paul Hankins. Paul, I'm going to ask you to stand up, because I know you don't want to. Their world-class expertise, coupled with the superb capability of their contractor, Don John Marine from Newark, New Jersey, they made today possible. So Governor Moore, as an Army vet living in a Navy town, it's no surprise to you that the Army and the Navy make a great joint team.
They sure do.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, so one last person to embarrass here today. Colonel Esty Pinchason. Go ahead and stand up, Esty. Esty, we're proud of what you accomplished, you and the entire Baltimore team. So I know you're going to hate me to say this, but as you head into the last few weeks of command and look forward to being a staff officer again, this is an awfully good note to leave command on. You certainly proved a great example of what committed and compassionate leadership looks like. You certainly live up to the Army motto, be all you can be. Esty, we salute you and the Baltimore team. Mission accomplished. Well done. I think you're up next. I think Baltimore County Executive.
Thank you, General Graham, and good afternoon to all. It is an honor to be with you today. You know, in my nearly 6 years of serving as county executive, I've had my fair share of early morning calls. And as the governor has reminded us before, these calls are never for a good reason. The call that came from our fire chief the morning of March 26th will go down as probably the toughest of all of those calls. It was a call that marked the beginning of a scramble, first to save lives, later to recover victims and help bring closure to grieving families, to help communities process what devastation a bridge collapse really means to our economy, to our transportation network, and to even our emotional well-being. The collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge was a tragedy of unprecedented proportions. Needless to say, it has been a difficult 11 weeks. But it's also been an 11 weeks where we have shown incredible strength, resilience, and through which we have literally shown the entire world just how amazing our communities are in the Baltimore region and across Maryland. And we have done that together. I am so grateful for the incredible partnership that has powered that work. You know, in local government, we're tasked to do it all. We fill in gaps and we meet needs, but that would have been impossible without President Biden, without Tom Perez and Secretary Buttigieg, without Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller, without the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, our partners in state and local government from Baltimore City, Anne Arundel County, Carroll County, Cecil County, without the U.S. Coast Guard, without Rear Admiral Gilreath, without Captain O'Connell, without Colonel Butler and the Maryland State Police, without the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, of course, General Graham, Colonel Pinchason. It would not have been possible without MDOT and Secretary Wiedefeld, without the ILA and your incredible team, Mr. President, without Trade Point Atlantic, without our local business leaders, and more. It'd be impossible without our federal delegation. So I know I speak for all my colleagues in government, especially in local government, including Mayor Scott, County Executive Pittman, when I just say I want to offer our sincere thanks. The work here has been nothing short of miraculous, clearing this channel in record speed to make for the full restoration of services at the Port of Baltimore, allowing our constituents, our family, and our friends to get back to work, and giving us hope that soon enough, with that same partnership and that same cooperation, we will have a brand new bridge and be more wholly back to that full sense of normalcy in life. Thank you, and God bless. It is now my pleasure to welcome for remarks someone who has been an incredible advocate for the men and women who do the work at the Port of Baltimore, someone who's been a fierce advocate for the men and women of ILA Local 333, President Scott Cowan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Big day in the Port of Baltimore and a very big day for the ILA. While this is, you have a 700-foot, 50-foot deep channel here in the Port of Baltimore today, they over-delivered a little bit. We were working a few weeks ago. The Army Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guard made it possible to get every ship that we could handle in here over the last several weeks. So thank you very much for that. While many of us depended on, during COVID-19, depended on the ILA to unload ships and get goods to market, the ILA here in Baltimore was dependent on others this time. I'd like to thank all the salvors, Don John Marine, Resolve, Sanska, the dredging contractors of America, especially Cashman Dredging. It wasn't only the steel that they were taking out of that river. Those good old Irish boys were digging that debris off the bottom so we could get the 50-foot draft to get these ships in here. So that's a big deal. And for the Unified Command, thank you so much. We were dependent on you guys. Without you, it wouldn't have happened. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our International President, Harold Daggett, Executive Vice President, Dennis Daggett, CEO of United States Maritime Alliance, Dave Adam, Executive Vice President of USMX, Paul DeMaria. They were the first ones to provide relief to longshoremen within a week from the bridge collapse. Then, the week after the bridge collapsed, we had a meeting right down here in Shed 4. The governor came, several other elected officials, and the governor made a commitment to me and to the men and women of the ILA that he was going to take care of us. He had our backs, and sir, your word is good, because that's what you did. A lot of times in this industry, it's a tough industry, it's very competitive. We were a wounded port. And believe me, as soon as that bridge fell down, other ports were looking to take our cargo. I know the main focus of the federal government was not to screw up the supply chain. We couldn't have that. The whole country depends on that. But if this channel wouldn't have got opened in the speed it did, we would have took a very big loss of cargo to other ports. And that could have been devastating to the men and women of the ILA. I also want to thank Senate President Bill Ferguson, Senator Johnny Ray Salling for getting behind the Port Act. You guys pushed that through. Delegate Luke Clippinger and the House of Representatives, you guys made that happen. And without that, a lot of the ILA members wouldn't have been able to stay. That's bipartisan. This country ought to take a little bit of a lead on that and look at that a little bit closer. Secretary Wu, And your staff at the Maryland Department of Labor, you've been with us every step of the way. Thank you so, so much. Executive Director Jonathan Daniels, and your staff at the Maryland Port Administration. I must have called you every day for like 60 days straight, several times a day, and you always picked up. And if you couldn't, you sent me a text and got back to me. So you kept my nerves down a little bit, and I appreciate that. Secretary Wiedefeld, thank you as well. I don't know any Secretary of Transportation for any state would want to deal with this thing. The Baltimore Community Foundation. They stepped up to the plate and helped the ILA members with a grant, and it will not be forgotten. I know some of those folks are here today, and thank you so, so much for the Ravens and the Orioles donating money to the Baltimore Community Foundation. You know, most people wouldn't have received the relief that the ILA members did here in the Port of Baltimore. If you were in another job, the only thing you would have received is unemployment. Well, a longshoreman makes a good living, and unemployment wouldn't have cut it to put food on the table and pay the bills for some of these folks. If these people wouldn't have stepped up, we'd have had a hard road to tow. Luckily, we had that help, and believe me, all the members of the ILA appreciate it. And lastly, I got to thank my partner, Atlantic Coast District, Mike Coe, Vice President Mike Coe, Vice President of Local 333. We were on this thing every day for 2 months, from Annapolis to Baltimore and everywhere in between. My staff at Local 333, the local leadership of Local 953, and the local leadership of ILA Local 1429, they did a tremendous job for the members, and that's what matters to us the most. And to all the members of the ILA, all 3 locals, the port's back open for business. Let's go. Let's get the cargo in here, and let's put this thing in the past, and let's move forward. Thank you. You're going to hear from my partner, Mark Schmidt, who runs Ports America. Mark and the other employers kept a lot of the ILA folks working. Ports America, SSA, Tartan Terminals, Mid-Atlantic Terminal. They kept a lot of our folks on the payroll when they didn't have to.